Welcome to Additional Crew Game Review. I'm Nick. Fair warning now, there will be heavy spoilers in this review. Now, I've been a fan of Silent Hill since I played Silent Hill 2 on the PS2 when I was, I'm sure, too young. I remember rocking out to You're Not Here by Akira Yamaoka from the Silent Hill 3 soundtrack, and then committing the biggest mistake that I've ever made in my gaming career and trading in all my PS2 stuff for a Nintendo Wii. Future note, kids, don't trade in your stuff for new stuff. Keep your old stuff and save up for the new stuff. Please just have patience with it. Anyway, after the resounding success of Silent Hill 2 Remastered, my expectations became quite high for Silent Hill F. It's the first fully new mainstream Silent Hill release since Downpour in 2012. Silent Hill has been one of my favorite series. So let's talk about Silent Hill F. Silent Hill F drops us into the psyche of Hinako Shimizu, a school-age girl that watches her town be devoured by the famous fog, which causes her to traverse a version of her hometown that has been corrupted. As Silent Hill is known for, most of what is seen throughout the town is a representation of Hinako's psyche and some of the underlying emotions and feelings that exist within a nearly adult Japanese girl in a 1960s rural village. Now, this is where I'll speak a bit of bias that I may have here, because as an adult male living in America, this set of circumstances proves to be a bit more difficult to connect with than almost any of the other Silent Hill games we've had before this. And I want to be clear as we go on that I think this is likely an important part of this Silent Hill in particular, and empathy usually leads to a deeper connection to the protagonist of the past Silent Hill games. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm going to say some harsh things in some bits of this, and if you're like, wow, that's not the experience I had at all, that's totally fair. This might just be a game that wasn't made for people exactly like me, you know? Either which way, though. The story's presentation takes place in two separate realities, or locations, or universes, or as we've colloquially come to know them as the world and the other world. The other world in this game is a large interconnected shrine with lots of really cool blue lights everywhere. I'll start here because the other world is likely my biggest complaint in this game in general. At first, the other world in Silent Hill F is daunting. You know, it's the first place with multiple combat zones. You got these crazy looking new monsters. You've got lock progression until the monsters are dead. It's dark. There's a kind of cool, kind of creepy dude with a fox mask and glowing eyes leading you everywhere, but then totally abandoning you anytime anything creepy kind of starts happening. But the world loses its edge fast, and Kodayuki, which, by the way, name of the fox dude, if you didn't notice, he also gets kind of annoying in my opinion. By the end of the first run through the game, I was already sick of the other world, and the endless wooden hallways filled with forest monster fights. A lot of crazy stuff happens here in the story, but as a setting, it ends up pretty dull. That's probably one of the worst things you could say about a game like Silent Hill is dull. I think that's where I landed with that part. Let me tell you though, I will give you an example of a time where the other world worked well, in my opinion, and that's when you enter into the room. It's a bad puzzle, whatever. But when you enter the room and there's lava on one side, and it's the wooden hallways, and the Rinko's cage is above the top, and you're lowering Rinko into the lava kind of slowly, because that scene with the lava underneath and the wooden or in the metal and the other side looking more serene, even though it was the creepy place beforehand, that it gave me more of the Silent Hill vibes than almost any other place in the other world in this game. But the real world, on the other hand, is mostly stunning. Running through, and I'm going to mispronounce the name of this town, but running through Ibisaguaca. Feel free to laugh. That's okay. I know I slaughtered that. And seeing all the areas of the town is a treat. While force fighting and unnecessarily large quantities of monsters could feel like a chore, the town design in general is pretty unnerving. I like the look more without all the red flowers, but I can understand why they're there. And I get that the corruption and decay going on through the town is part of the story. Best moments in the game all take place in the real world. Yeah, the absolute standout, of course, is the school, the high school. The school, it provides the best puzzles in the game with the most interesting ideas. The atmosphere is the best it is in the entire game, and it occurs at a point in the story where the mystery and ambiguity with Rinko and Hanako's relationship with Shu, it still feels malignant enough to be a driver of what we're seeing in general. But also the school has a part because the game's atmosphere breaks down in every scenario where there's too many enemies to fight, and they all kind of look the same. And the fights themselves are okay. You know what? let's just talk about the combat itself. Silent Hill F features a lot of combat. And I know what you're saying. Silent Hill 2 Remastered did as well. What's the difference? Well, it is different. In Silent Hill F, you've got a sanity bar, you have a stamina bar, you have a durability bar, you have a health bar. You have to watch for opportunities to counter moves, or you have to dodge the moves at the perfect timing. I've heard it described as a Souls-like game, and I've played a lot of Souls-like games. I disagree with that, but it does have enough of these elements to know that combat is more involved than past entries. I'm not opposed to combat being more involved, but it's not good. In the beginning, it feels like maybe it could be okay, and you're going to learn a lot of new things, and it'll get more interesting by the end. But by the end, you realize it hasn't changed. It's still the same. You're just slogging through all of the enemies that they throw at you. It requires too much patience, and it has almost no challenge. So it's just not good. You have force fights and weapon durability. Every enemy feels like fodder that you're waiting for the next enemy, but there's really no big enemy at the end of these things that's interesting. So because you have no real enemy variety, so each fight just feels kind of like a waste of time. Enemies stop being scary because once you understood their pattern, the whole fight was just waiting until they made a mistake and then counterattacking them. It just felt really awful. The combat was such a large part of the game that it frankly hurt the atmosphere heavily. Think of the scene in the Shimizu house near the end. That had a setup for some genuinely creepy effects. Like, I love the idea of like the bath that was filled with the blood, with the hair coming out like it was moved from part of the garage. Like, just great little setup. However, all the tension is ruined because the combat keeps breaking the scenery up. You have these cool places that look awesome, and then there's just so much combat you can't even focus on it. The Otherworld shrines were just a gauntlet of monotony. And I want to specifically talk about weapon durability here for a second. Can games stop doing this? Stop giving me weapons just for them to break. It's not interesting. It's not anxiety producing. I'd rather just hit something 20 times with my fist than deal with inventory management or breaking weapons. The Otherworld parts where you get your Wolfgang thing were the best parts of the combat because you could stop caring about your durability. Also, if you're going to have durability in a game, don't trap me in a room with 3 to 5 enemies that are all sponges that have to be killed. It's just a drain on weapon durability without any fun or any challenge. It's truly an area that made this game worse. I just want my lead pipe. I wanted to keep working. It was made in the 60s. Things back then weren't prone to breakage. Like, this isn't a 2026 game where if you buy something and you use it once, it breaks. This is the 60s, man. These things had to stand up to, I want to say, the Cuban Missile Crisis. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. So, with the combat out of the way, though, let's talk about the game impact. Because despite that tirade, I don't absolutely hate this game. I just don't really connect with it. The idea here seems to be that Hinako is dealing with expectations around marriage, womanhood, adolescent love versus adult love, manipulation, social expectations, and something about fox gods and kabuki shoes. When the game features the themes of social pressure projected onto Hinako's peers, and I don't think that what we really see was from her peers, just what Hinako thought her peers were thinking about her. Anyway, I was really into the feeling of a town turned against someone, and I thought these themes fit really together well, especially because it's all these familiar places suddenly being corrupted and filled with enemies. It not only made sense, but it was also very relatable. But once we move past that, I find the multiple ending approach only made me more upset because it just kept moving further and further away from relatability. The things Hinako were going through were very real, but they don't feel like they justified the whole Silent Hill experience that was happening in the town. By the end, I was hoping that the geysers that they were talking about would just kill everyone, and that was the actual explanation to it all. And that's not, you don't like those out explanations. The music in the game was good. The sound effects were really good, and the game stopped being scary in the town. Like the atmosphere of the game wasn't messed up by the music at all. That the music really helped the atmosphere of the game. I wish there was a little bit more throat singing to go around, though, out of all of it. And I will say this too: if you're playing the game in English language, you have to play it in Japanese. the English language acting is so very much over the top anime style, and there's a chance that the Japanese acting is like that too. In the movie reviews I talk sometimes I don't know if the intonation of a language I don't understand is the same. However, it feels much more grounded in the Japanese language. In the English language, it feels very dramatic. So make sure you're playing it Japanese language subtitles. Um, Overall, I'm giving the game a 6.5 out of 10.